Okay, I've been intending to go over um, forgiveness for a while now, so I'm going to sit down right now and do it. I came to forgiveness for the first time a few months ago, and that's a few months after the start of this whole awakening or whatever this is. I like to think of it as the third eye opening, because that's what I think it happened. We could call it an ego death or a dark night of the soul. We call it whatever we want to, but that's how I see it. Um, a few months after that, I was practicing meditation for some time, and for some reason, one morning I sat outside and I had my meditation. And prior to this, I was practicing, placing my consciousness or bringing, steering my attention. I would take these really cold showers, and I, put my arm outside of the stream, so my body would be like rigid, freezing cold, and I try to like focus on the part of my body, my right hand, which was out of the water, which was remaining warm. And I would do this day in and day out. Every day I would practice that after the gym, and I would at times I would succeed in not feeling cold, and my consciousness, it would be in my arm or in my hand, rather than sometimes we identify it as between our eyes, or we identify ourselves existing right here in our heart chakra. It's different for different people. Scarcely have I heard of somebody who finds his being in his foot. So I play with these ideas. I like playing with consciousness, with my mentality, and that's what this all is. It's an exploration of the mind. So, following that experience, I was meditating outside, and I said, well, what if I could place my consciousness outside of my body? And I imagined, with my eyes closed, some random stranger. I imagined a random stranger walking down the street, and I said, well, what if I were him? And in my mind, I put myself in this made up person's body, and I opened my eyes, and I was that person. um, and these meditation is great for imagination, because your imagination, the more you practice it, gets more sharp, more vivid, and more real, and your subconscious responds to imagination just as it does a real experience or a dream. So it's very important to you can use that. A lot of people use that for manifestation. It's very important. The more real the experience is, the more impactful the experience is. And so I opened my eyes in this individual's body, and I was it was my eyelids, or his eyelids, and in that moment, for some reason, I came to understand that this person has his own life, and with that life came very real fear, very real pain, very real suffering, very real as real. I came to understand that everyone's pain and suffering and experiences were just as real as my own. And when I came to realize that, we hear these terms often: walk a mile in someone else's shoes, and but I experienced this in a knowing that I never did before. I stopped and I meditated on it, and I contemplated, and I went there. I took myself, I took my mind there. And when I did that, I was so I moved. I felt so much for this made up person. It was very emotional for me. It was very emotional, and doing that practice introduced me to compassion. That practice, it was the first time I felt compassion, and I know this because I would have assumed that I had felt compassion previously, but having felt this, I now realize that I never really did. I felt compassion in my body. I felt compassion emotionally, and as a sensation, and that was much more real than understanding with my mind or the concept of compassion. um, so it was so impactful to me. The thoughts then just started rolling as soon as I experienced that. Immediately afterwards, I considered the people I love, and I considered the people I don't love, and I considered the strangers that I know, and then I considered the strangers that I don't know, that I've never crossed paths with, and I considered people in North Korea, and I considered everything, and my heart just hurt. My heart hurt for everybody, and it was the first time that I felt compassion. That was the first time I felt compassion, and it was extremely important. That was so important because that opened my heart chakra, and that never left me again. Um, that experience led to forgiveness. The forgiveness came from understanding oneness. I'll talk about the forgiveness another time because we got caught on compassion this time, but the forgiveness was profound, and the forgiveness is important. And I'll tell you exactly how I came to that, and it was very very real, and there was no looking back after that. So we'll get there.